Welcome to the webinar Cross-Border Innovation, PMI's Success with Bitso Business Blockchain. PMI, in partnership with Bitso Business, is harnessing its potential to deliver faster, safer, and more cost-effective international transfers. Explore with us the transformative power of stablecoins and the transformation of cross-border payments. Please, Alex, can you introduce us to PMI?
Well, PMI, it's funny because in our world of fintechs and startups, we start with an idea and then eventually we evolve into finding a specific solution or several solutions. And we started with the idea of helping US companies, but specifically companies, pay their call centers or remote workers in Latin America. And we started from the beginning in the cross-border payments. And that eventually evolved into now a full B2B payment solution, embedded finance. And what we discovered from the beginning was that, if we're going to play in this environment of cross-border payments and third-party payments, you have to really know the regulations. You have to really understand what it is, the limitations, or what are those rules, right, of how to play that game. And so from the beginning, we went forward and we got our own license. So in most countries, we're a licensed institution, a payment institution. And it kind of went a little bit against what other fintechs were doing. And what we realized is we rather grab the bull head on and really understand it and learn to deal with it rather than work with legal opinions and in years or covering yourself under a bank. And it's been challenging for sure, but again, it's a challenge that I think has enabled us to grow, because in the end, we are the regulated entity. We are responsible to the banking commission in several countries, and I think that has made the difference of our service, because at the end, we're not aggregating anybody underneath. So price wise, we can be very competitive, and in terms of compliance and let's just say the certification of that payment or the ability for us to really control the payment as much as possible has been because we are the final payment institution. And what we learn in general is that, we have to have good partners in general. Wherever we always have bank partners, we always have liquidity partners. We're not doing this on our own. And I think Bitso has probably been our best partner in all the territories. We operate with Bitso in Mexico, Bitso Brazil, Bitso Colombia, Bitso Argentina, and everywhere we work, it's really hand in hand. And what Bitso has allowed us to do is to really leverage the stablecoin, because as a regulated entity, we're not offering clients crypto. We're not really dealing in cryptos. We're not buying and selling crypto, but we're leveraging the technology of blockchain through like a Bitso. So we can go from local currency state to the other side of the world. So a lot of payments that we do internally, for instance, PMI Mexico might send a payment to PMI Brazil to clients' individual payment needs, but the link between the two is the Bitso transfers. But it's really for us to move very fast between our own countries. It has really narrowed that gap of competitiveness. And that's all thanks to really the blockchain technology, which I know we'll talk in part 2. But in general, PMI really is a payment solution for businesses that are looking to pay in a very complicated 24, because I know banks can pay, yes, of course, bank can pay SWIFT, but if you have noticed, everybody, in general, the if you want to call it that, is happening all over the world. There's a lot of tension between the US and other nations. And just moving money around is becoming more complex, more difficult. Not impossible, of course, if you're doing your business and you're supporting documentation. It is really walking the clients with their costs. Yeah, we're making sure that everything is really well supported. And that has allowed us to really make those payments more efficiently, really, really well priced, and we just make sure that the payment gets.
Great. What could you tell us about the initial challenges PMI faced in managing cross-border payments?
I mean, you always have there's two situations that you'll always face in cross-border payments. One is the ability to be fast And unfortunately, Swift is not a very fast method of payment. And some corridors are, let's say, US, Mexico, that tends to be a faster payment. But if you're sending money, I don't know, from Mexico to Malaysia, it might actually take 2 days. It might actually take more than that. And so speed is definitely one of those challenges for cross-border payments. For instance, Brazil with PIX, Mexico with speed, internally dominated very well the real-time payments. But the moment you talk about cross-border payments, you're mixing technology, and really the only link still used is Swift. So it's based on a very old technology that itself it needs to be revisited. But independent from that, the other alternative is the stable coins, being able to go in and out of stable, just a bridge for payment. So the first challenge was the speed of how that payment is executed. And the second challenge is that because there's so many intermediaries, normal payment, start with your local institution, there might be another intermediary bank, a Citibank in the middle. That bank might take some money here and there that nobody knows how, but some money disappears in the process. That might even hold the payment and ask for additional documentation. Then that bank will send it to the recipient bank in the other side of the world. Well, I think the traditional payment has a lot of intermediaries, and each one has their own rules, and sometimes payments tend to take long or get stuck in that. So I think the ability to jump into a blockchain technology and reduce the number of intermediaries and the time of that payment is a huge benefit for any payment across the world.
Great. So in this context, how has PMI addressed the challenges of moving money across countries? And what role have blockchain and stablecoins played in that solution?
Right. So when let's talk about it and it's like this, well, I need to show you well as it just said I'm living on that actually well since I was like I did it. But there's this all I am being very excited realized just early and then example our common having issues where there is in high but is it isn't goes at home on that makes design for rules which is the young out loud with regulatory complexities that we don't find us keep no squall right point. And in the end they were able to find one solution a blockchain. In this particular case, we're talking about stablecoins. So I wanted to share this picture that shows the stable transaction volume since 2009. The volume has grown on average 225% each year, so our market cycles. And what is pretty impressive is that this growth is justified by how stable the stablecoins are being used. They have not only used as a bridge to crypto assets, but more cross-border remittances, cross-border payments, and payroll use cases, for example. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I work with another about this, so the PMI to move. We didn't want to use so money using stable us. We make premiums, payouts with the direct emission to the local payment brilliance. And all this with the advantage that it's 1% sent out to media. Yeah, here it is. So that's a little bit of the context of what's famous. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for bringing that Antonio. So when I thought that as to finish who how fikir ang ayos that original the was name and stating Alex, allow me to know you might be looking at to the can to the last hand and say they're going to Arabi David shut down with us. I did mention.
So we first, I mean, it was purely by accident, honestly, and we started to go to a lot of the regular conferences across the world, the payment conferences, the Money 2020s, and we always thought really that the blockchain and the crypto technology was more for the people who wanted to really get into the Bitso. I'm sorry, the Bitcoin craze, and never saw the potential of a stablecoin until eventually we ran into the circles, the Fireblocks, Stellars, and we started to see that there was real investment behind this. At least the notion of a stable coin being able to now do transactions, cross-border payments. And at that point, you start looking at the stable coin as a global coin in a way, even though the dollar is like global. But here in this universe of the blockchain technology, you can now talk to another fintech across the world, and you can tell them, do you guys take USDC, USDT? Can you do an on and off ramp? Do you have a Bitso partner locally? And at that point, we all started looking at that alternative to the traditional SWIFT. And so it kind of started to grow. And this is maybe 5 years ago. And now, like in your graph, it shows how much it has been adopted into traditional cross-border payments. And I think that the use case might have started as if you're an individual and you live in Argentina, or you live in a place where your local currency is volatile, USDC might be a good place to hold your wallet. It started with an individual need to not have local currency, to evolving of how else can we use this technology to really now be an alternative to a traditional payment. So I think this evolution of the B2B came after the wave of the individual using stable.
Very, very interesting. So, du sẽ là everything on how PMI implemented the law with South Arabia?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially we were looking, actually the first, when we first adopted it was Bitso, by the way. So when we first, the first account we ever had in anything related to blockchain was Bitso. And it became more to move money between our Bitso accounts. So again, we move money from Bitso Colombia or Bitso Mexico to our Bitso Colombia and Bitso Argentina. And that really introduced us to the whole world of blockchain. And eventually that led to now incorporating other companies like Fireblocks or Stellar or Circle. And the more we learned about it, we got better, we got more partners, and we were now, recipients of also stable coins for those payments, and using Bitso, for instance, Mexico, so we can be recipients of stable coin, and through the Bitso, we can use the Bitso Alpha or whichever Bitso to transform or convert or sell those stable coins into local currency. And still within the environment of Bitso, we can now do a SPAY, which is very convenient, by the way. So we don't have to go too far out of the same ecosystem to do a full transaction. So the moment that we saw that you could really automate, and I give the example of Mexico, I think where Bitso really is the strongest is in Mexico, where you can fully automate the moment a payment lands in your wallet, in your stablecoin wallet, automatically is transformed to local currency, Mexican peso, and immediately you can have an instruction to send out a pay immediately. So that transformation, which could have taken in a normal bank a couple of hours here and there, somebody going in manually to push that payment, it could be in seconds through a Bitso. So again, it's also learning to use tools, and you guys have provided a really nice set of tools and APIs that are easy for us to integrate.
Amazing. Do you have any platforms similar to Bitso in your company, and how are these platforms used to improve the management and analysis of your financial operations? Yes, actually, yes.
We have other, we do have use for other exchanges, and Bitso is one of the most friendly. I tell you that. So yeah, you've done well on that part. And even though we connect, a lot of our connection is through API. A lot of the really happen automatically. It's very helpful to go in, or at least our treasury or some of our teams to go into the actual Bitso platform to receive information, to see on the market itself, go in and we see what the market is doing right now, what has been traded in the Bitso Alpha. You can see how many coins from traded to Mexican peso in the last 24 hours. So it's really interesting information, see what the demand is between buy and sell. So you can get a lot of information just on going into the Bitso platform, just to see what tendencies of behavior the market is doing on a specific day. So even that is a tool that is the
Great, great. What would you say are some of the key benefits that PMI has experienced after adopting blockchain and stablecoins within their operations, its operations?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest benefit is that we can automate as much as possible. So the less human intervention, the less errors, I believe. So it leaves no room for anybody typing in correct amount or the wrong account. So I think that the more you can really learn to automate a flow, a transactional flow, and I don't only use Bitso because Bitso is incorporated into Fireblocks. And if you go into the whole world of Fireblocks, then you can really go beyond the Latin American corridors. You can really now use the Bitso Fireblocks connection to now connect to a Malaysia exchange, and you can transaction in Mexican pesos, change it automatically, going to a stablecoin, and automatically send it all the way down to the Malaysian Fintech with the Malaysian bank, transform it into local currency, and do that disbursement locally. That can happen within a few minutes. So I think yes, the benefit is really the automation of a process that tends to be very intervened by different departments in a normal situation.
So basically, we could say that you have a lot of improvements regarding the speed of the transactions, and of course, this has an impact on money and on how fast money moves, and of course on liquidity, right? So there are major advantages of using our technology, right? Would you say this is a factor, or do you think? What we say are some of the drawbacks? Have you seen any drawback by using this technology?
Yes, of course. If you let's say that you send a wrong wire to a wrong account, you can maybe call your bank, and there's a really good chance that they can track the wire, and somebody actually might return that wire that correctly. So in the blockchain, once you send that payment, if it's correct, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to really get it back. So as fast as it is also very dangerous. If you miss one little thing here and there, you can end up losing a lot of money, and people have lost money for incorrect wallet addresses. It also lends itself to scams, to be really careful, because Bitso can do as much as they can do, and Chainalysis can do as much as they can. But if you were scammed and that scammer used a fake address and you end up sending your money, and that money was lost or moved very fast, it is very difficult to get it back. And so those are the drawbacks. But it's not a drawback of Bitso; it's just a drawback of the blocking technology.
Yes. Let me expand a little bit on how regulation is needed, right? I think one of the main advantages of Bitso, that's a fully regulated end-to-end crypto exchange. So therefore, a lot of the things that you might have doubts about, we're covered, right? Basically, we're covered by the central bank, we're covered by the banking commission, we're covered by our license, by crypto license, and therefore we even have insurance, right, for our crypto. So you also have what we call the proof of ownership. So you can basically do by your own and see that what crypto you have inside Bitso's bellies, right? And you can do it on your own. It's a full independent audit.
So let's discuss the fact that we are, I think, one of the best options in the market. So in a sense, let's see, elevated our regulation is evolving. Latin Merc, essentially, Brazil or Argentina, Colombia, Mexico. As you know, Mexico hasn't done pretty much for in the last years. Although with the signing of the CAR as a crypto asset reporting framework, we think that the Ministry of Finances and the central bank are going to start moving towards a crypto regulation or regarding exchanges. As you know, as of now, crypto is not regulated in Mexico. You only have an AM, LKYC considerations to fall. At the same time, we have been following what's going on in Brazil. Brazil has a good law, very interesting. I think it's a good regulation, but right now they're just waiting on how the central bank is planning to craft the secondary regulation, and specifically how stable points are going. So at the same time, we have Argentina. Argentina, as you know, it's changing, it's bridging. Things are loosening up. I think we're going to have some very, very interesting changes, specifically on the registration of video-assisted providers, and then, of course, the issuance of tokens or statements. And also in Colombia, where Sandbox was tried in last year, and in the three of us reviewed. So what we might say is that even though we don't have a global, or at least a very clear path on how stablecoins as crypto are to be regulated, we do have some basic guidelines that allows us to say that this is a legal activity, regulated activity. And I might add that in some of your show would be a central part of how any type of transaction is dealing or can be done in cross-border payments, and also in national or domestic payments. So without further ado, I would like to pass to Bluff Creek regarding the strategic partnership that the PMI has with Bitso Business. And please, Antonio, could you please tell us about how did the partnership between PMI and Bitso Business come about?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again. So you guys see that it by like regarding to develop islands to the main horses or starting, you see, so on the first part, and then about original efficiency.
I think that it's important what Alex said. They were facing many problems when trying to find a good provider that could give them the tools to reduce transaction costs and have only one solution, right? I think that's important. They were also dealing with currency exchange, not finding enough liquidity and suffering a lot of volatility, right? And of course, one problem that they had was that every time they wanted to open operations in a new country, they faced all the regulatory problems that took them a long time and cost to start working in a new country, right? And as you mentioned, Etienne, it is pretty important to have
that the money not link and UIC requirements are 100%.
Right? We have seen that in the market. You can find other crypto exchanges that barely have 0 fees, right? But they might not have all the compliance and legal structure going well. And of course, this can affect. So let's go to the next slide so I can show you how Bitso addresses these needs. So first of all, Bitso is the largest crypto exchange in Latin America. And to get there, we have to develop trust among our clients. In terms of operational excellence, what we do is we are very characterized by having enough liquidity for PMI's day-to-day operations. In this specific case, I'm talking about USDT and USDC books, also including blockchains like Stellar, Algorand, Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, where the transaction fees are barely minimal, right? About having the ability to manage currency conversions, PMI has an enterprise Bitso account with us, and they use a lot our Bitso Alpha trading platform, where they can obtain a good currency conversion rate and go against volatility sometimes using our OTCT or our over-the-counter desk designed to execute large foreign exchange and cryptocurrency trades with precision. And the last but not least, talking about compliance solutions. Bitso is the extended arm for PMI operation, in which we help them to open operations in other countries without the need to have a local entity and make use of the payment rails of each country, such as Pay, ACH, PIX, for example. So we're like a bridge for companies to have access to different countries in Latin America without effort and in less time. So just let me give you an example. Like, suppose you have a Mexican entity that wants to start operations in Colombia to make payouts. It's only a matter of a click to start using that solution into our platform, right? And of course, in terms of anti-money laundering and knowing what's question with tools, as I mentioned before, Bitso has been characterized by being an exchange free of any type of bad news from the crypto environment. As you may know, there are a lot of crypto exchanges, there are a lot of scams. So we have always adjusted to the most rigorous KYC and compliance measures dictated by the law.
I think Bitso is by far the most secure option out there for providing crypto infrastructure. And we've proven ourselves, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say that number one is being able to use all the Bitsos around the Latin American territories with our own operations. So that, like you said, we have completely actually replaced SWIFT wherever Bitso operates, and we have operations, and we need to use our own treasury to move money around. So treasury management has been really useful for us. That way, let's say that we have over carry ourselves with the USDC, and we need USDC in Brazil. We can Bitso transfer that to our Brazil operation. So treasury management is important. But like you said, at the end, once you are in the Bitso ecosystem, you can now, through blockchain, you can reach any part of the world. So it opens up the world. I mean, it's not just limited to whatever Bitso has. I mean, it opens up to, if you want to send money to South Africa because, you have a Mexican client that is purchasing, I don't know, tours or safari tours in South Africa, that would have been a normal SWIFT. But here's a situation where we find on the other side of the world another fintech that offers a similar service where we have, and they have another version of Bitso locally, and we can finish that transaction. So it doesn't limit it just to where we feel Bitso can reach. So this is really the access. Bitso is a gateway to the entire blockchain and to the entire world. And it's just for any fintech or anybody else being able to connect with another version or another partner across the world. Now, what we have done, of course, because we're a regulated entity, we rely on Bitso's own regulation. So here's a situation where we are a local regulated money transfer operator in Mexico, also in Brazil. And what we end up doing is we end up collaborating, and really as a regulated entity, as a financial institution, we only look to collaborate with other financial institutions. We rather not or stay away from companies that offer liquidity or services, like you said, in the crypto world, that are unlicensed or supposedly be licensed somewhere that we don't feel comfortable. So that is very important. For us, we didn't want to jump into the blockchain universe with just any exchange that supposedly was doing their own KYC and their own KYT. So for us as a financial institution, it was very important to maintain a similar, very, hard line on what our KYC requirements are, and being able to continue that line, right? So that's why we end up really using Bitso specifically, because it was complementary to our entire regulatory ecosystem.
That's amazing. I would say there is such a thing as regulatory advantages, right? The fact of being regulated it's better for us, it's better for you, and it's better for the clients. And I love this phrase that you say, that Bitso is your gateway to the world, the blockchain world and the financial world. Maybe we can borrow that phrase for something in the future. I really loved it. So guys, let's move on to block 4. What do you think is going to be the future collaborations that the Bitso and PMI are going to be able to get? And also, what are the lessons that you have learned by this collaboration and this partnership process?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the examples that we're now working with Bitso is to even leverage our own Mexico license. So our traditional our license, let's say, is traditionally used for money remittances, and even though we don't really service the money remittances, in this case, through Bitso, we're exploring the opportunity where a user in the US might have a wallet and is also under a regulated entity, and this wallet can send through Bitso to the relatives, Bitso here, or even through us, end up paying that money remittance, because again, we have the license to do it, and Bitso becomes the intermediary, becomes that, let's call it the bank in the middle, right? What used to have as a bank in the middle, now we have Bitso in the middle between the money remitter in the US and us as a recipient remitter in Mexico. And as you all know, Mexico is, second to India, I think the biggest corridor in the world. So the opportunity is huge. I think digital remittances are growing. And I think Bitso particularly is in a very special position to capture that, because you can keep the stable coin for whoever wants to remain in stable coin, and then be able to, off ramp into Mexican peso, whatever you need. And I think that could be a really interesting transformation for those users. Again, money remittances are a huge aid to the family member in Mexico, but they suffer a lot of traditional issues where, when you have cash, nobody is responsible. Nobody is now giving you that security. The moment you walk out with that cash out of that tienda Electra, you can be robbed. Anything can happen. That relative can spend it in the incorrect way, then those bills do not get paid. So I think that more digital control you give to a user without calling it banking it. Let's not say that we're not going to forcefully bank all these remittances, but you can digitize the experience of these remittances. And I think that that's a huge opportunity for collaboration between PMI and Bitso. And again, we are really going for the digital world. We don't even offer cash for anything. So our digital world is the future, and we want to stay in that world. And we want to be able to take that to the next level. And I think that transformation is coming no matter what, in just a matter of when, right?
Yeah, I love the phrase that says that the internet and e-commerce needs its own money, right? Otherwise, it's kind of bizarre having a fiat world trying to enter the digital world. So we need digital currencies for digital world. Antonio, what would be your take on how this partnership has flourished?
Yeah, I also agree with the idea that Alex was sharing with us, that we are trying to digitalize the remittances corridor without being a bank. I think that our goal here at Bitso Business is to be the most cost-efficient payment platform all Latin America, actually worldwide. But our mission is to be the first company that comes in mind for large and small companies to obtain an extended arm of their operations. And in PMI's case, is to have PMI not only as our client, but as our commercial ally, with whom we can develop joint projects as the one that Alex already talked, right? So that is pretty interesting.
Great. So what lessons have you learned from this partnership that other businesses people in the audience can apply to their own cross-border payment strategies or payment strategies? What counsel can you give?
I mean, yes, I think that in our world where we're really competing, and I don't mean compete. We don't really compete. We're not really competing against the banks, and I don't want to put the bank as the enemy, because I don't think the banks are the enemy. I think here the enemy is cost, is inefficiencies, lack of technology, old technology. We will always need banks, and I think banks do a great service, especially when banks start to adopt new technologies like blockchain, and eventually, technologies like internet, only a few people use it. Emails, only a few people use it until it became a mass adoption. So I think here is a situation where blockchain itself is an amazing technology that can serve so many purposes, not just for money movements, but it also for digitizing processes, contracts. There's a whole other section of the blockchain that is really coming together. So I think here we have the opportunity, and the lesson that we learn is to adopt technologies that can help your consumer. And it's difficult, right? So what we see in our effort is not just to make it faster and better and more money for us. I think that the moment that we have our consumer in mind, and you really strive to get whatever you can better and faster and cheaper to that consumer eventually will tell somebody else that this is the way to go, and Bitso and PMI might be a better option for their traditional way. So I think if we can keep our focus on how technology partnerships can help any fintech or any service grow that customer base and make that customer experience a little better and less encumbersome, because again, banking tends to be, a little bit of tedious, and we're used to going to the bank branch. We're used to getting all these, things, but they shouldn't be there. I mean, maybe there's a process where a lot of less interaction with the bank branch is needed. And those are technologies, right? I mean, at the end, we're really using this technology to make our lives easier and better.
I would say that this is very interesting. We have a model here at Bitso. It's kind of one of our principles is to make crypto useful, right? Crypto has to be useful, and I think PMI's and Bitso business partnership is a proof of that. But by what you're saying, I would also infer that crypto is here to make finance useful, right? To make things easy, to make things fast, and that's a great takeaway. I would say, Alex. Very, very nice insight on how crypto is actually making changes inside traditional finance. So basically, now is our time to pass to our conclusions. I would say that the key takeaways that we had from our webinar today are first, the revolutionary potential of stablecoins. Actually, stablecoins are revolutionizing cross-border payments by offering stable, transparent, and efficient alternatives to traditional methods. Of course, they're very, very cheap. That's something to consider. Also, the PMI's innovative partnership. I think the collaboration of PMI with Bitso Business is at the forefront of stablecoin adoption, providing businesses with faster, secure, and cost-effective international transfer solutions. Also addressing common concerns that we have about crypto and stablecoins, such as volatility, security, and regulatory compliance. As we said, stablecoins are secure, are fast, and they do comply with all regulatory frameworks that are actually in the LATAM zone for now. Also, and this what I say would be the last thing, is the future of cross-border payments. We do think that the future of international payment lies in blockchain technology, and we do think that PMI, with the Bitso's infrastructure, is leading the way in this new paradigm.
Yeah. And also, again, I just want to
yeah, sure.
one last takeaway. I would like to encourage companies to start adopting stablecoins in their business models since they are too secure and have many advantages. And please contact us if you have any plans to make a cross-border payments project or a remittance project, or simply do payouts, for example, in Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, and Argentina. We also do have operations in America, so we will be happy to help you.
Great. Alex, do you have some final thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I think in general, technology has also been, pushed, right? It's always been pushing the limits of where it can take us next. We saw the whole wave of AI and the craze of AI. Blockchain is similar. I believe it's a disruptor. It's difficult sometimes to mass adopt something like money movement through blockchain because it's different, right? I mean, you have the technology of AI that can help you, write an essay if you wanted to or whatever you want. The moment that you're touching funds and moving people's money, it's a little bit still very, you have to have a lot of control over that. So I think the mass adoption of blockchain, especially for stablecoins or for any movement across the blockchain, needs to be regulated, and it needs to be regulated by the governments and fully adopted by the governments. And I think that is beginning to happen. MiCA is happening in Europe. I think the US is really now slowly, but starting to turn the page. And it's a matter of getting these entities comfortable with the KYT and again with the traceability of a transaction. So the more that all these exchanges like Bitso collaborate and people start to only use these exchanges, the better it is for the ecosystem. Because again, if you are able to keep within the regulated ecosystem, it can become a really powerful tool that can now transfer payments, and you will not even blink before you already have a payment from your relative across the world. Or if you're in a tour in Japan and you need money because you ran out of money, you can have one click and suddenly you have yens and you can go spend them. I mean, we're not too far from that. And it's just a matter of really getting now the page turned into the regulation and all the regulators comfortable in the way that they're comfortable with fiat, right?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, things are going to change, and things are going to change pretty soon. So, I would encourage all the participants to reach out to Bitso Business, Antonio, for more information regarding our services and products. And for now, we'll go on to our Q&A. Please send your questions through the Q&A if you have some. Already received some, so I'm going to start with this one. I think this is for you, Alex. Someone is asking, Bolivia is in a currency crisis. I would like to know if there is a solution that may include this country and be able to send it to Mexico, Europe, or India. I've seen several solutions in PMI Americas, but I'm looking for a P2B alternative or a B2B alternative.
Yes, Bolivia definitely going through capital protection, government getting very tight on the capital escaping the country. This has been a situation that we've seen in Argentina. We've seen it in several countries. So unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, when governments intervene in the money exchanges or in the capital that is leaving the country, it makes it difficult to use the traditional system. And this is when alternatives start to emerge. And I want to go back a little bit to Argentina, because Argentina is a really good example. There was a lot of protection for the capital not leaving the country, and eventually there was an alternative effect. Eventually, there's all these exchanges that become relevant to the users and everyday use. And I think Bolivia is going through something similar, and unfortunately is still the transformation, because I don't think there's a Bitso still in Bolivia yet. And people are having a lot of struggles with getting funds out of the country within a decent and regulated way, because yes, there's always the dark side of getting money out, but that whole comes, with a whole other implications, and people are looking for a legit alternative to getting your money out. And unfortunately, Bolivia is still tough, and hopefully new solutions do arise from this. Opportunities do come from these crises.
Great. I have another question. This one is more technical, and I think you're gonna like it, Alex or Antonio. Is what's the future for non-KYC Bitcoin? So, what would be your take on that?
I mean, look, KYC, but number one, Bitcoin depends now, right? Because Bitcoin is now being seen as a not even anymore as a currency. So again, this is depending on how you treat Bitcoin, and it's a good question. The U.S. decided to treat Bitcoin as a non-currency and is now in an ETF. You can actually buy Bitcoin through a lot of regular brokerages, but it doesn't matter how you eventually use it. It's how you get the money into the system and eventually buy Bitcoin, and that's all we want. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not how you use the Bitcoin, and if you want to put Bitcoin as a savings for the rest of your life. But what we do want to know is what money is being used for that Bitcoin, and eventually that's all we really care is where is this money coming from and why is it being parked in Bitcoin. So again, it's like anything. If you today were going to buy a stock option in Coca-Cola in the stock market, you still need a brokerage. You still need a financial institution that is now the open gateway into that world. And they will do KYC because you're moving money. The moment that you move money, no matter where you move it into, even if it's not a currency, and even if it's a Coca-Cola acciones or Bitcoin, there is that financial institution that will still be the filter. So, the KYC is a tool that is still needed. Bad actors.
So as you say, Alex, the thing is that there's always a funnel, between the crypto world and the TradFi world, the fiat, and that's where you get the KYC, right? You can have non-KYC Bitcoin going around if you only pay with Bitcoin, right? But the moment you want to get your Bitcoin out of the crypto world and send it to or change it for fiat, that's where you're going to get the funnel, and that's where you're going to have KYC. So I have the same opinion as you regarding this question. Antonio, this is a question for you. Someone is asking, he has a company. The company is less than 1 year old. He's asking if you can onboard him.
Yeah, for this kind of cases, it will be great to have a deep conversation. Like, I encourage you to send me an email or contact our sales team so we can check how is your company composed by, and what documentation do you have to start the onboarding process. What is the use case you are trying to do? And of course, it will be a pleasure for me to help you.
Perfect. I think the last question is, they actually asking how is the onboarding process with a new client, Antonio. So maybe I think you can give us some of the basic steps. And
yeah, first of all, we would love to know where's the flow of funds of the company. Then our compliance and KYC team is going to ask a list of documents, certain documents that the main objective of those documents is to justify the operations and the limit you're going to have into your Bitso account, right? Once you finish the onboarding, then we can, for example, increase the limits. But if you have, for example, invoices, contracts, or something related that can justify that limit increase, we can work very well.
Perfect. So, I think this is it, guys. I'm just going to wrap this saying that Bitso has the infrastructure for the future of cross-border payments. We have a lot of products. Our products are pay-ins and payouts. international settlements and crypto FX. We have a trading desk, OTC, and also global and powerful APIs that you can use. So please contact us and see if you can leverage Bitso for your next business. Alex, I want to thank you for this, and I also think that the Bitso PMI partnership is amazing, right? This is a proof that things can be done, right? And technology can be leveraged for improving the way payments are made and reducing costs. So thank you very much for being here. Is there any last words you'd like to share with us?
Thank you for the space, for being able to share the partnership that we have. And obviously we encourage, other companies, whether you're a company that are exporting and you're using traditional bank, give us a chance, because, you might be surprised how fast and a little better than your traditional ways we can be. And again, through this partnership, we're able to service several countries, but specifically Mexico. We are very strong. We're competing with international payments. We have corresponding banks, even payment institutions across the world. So if you begin a transaction in Mexico, we can really finish it, anywhere in the world within, I would say, even less than 24 hours. But let's just say that, really fast, very competitive, and again, with a very boutique approach. So we would even walk you through the whole process from the beginning. So there's no stepping and a little bit stepping wrong or don't have anything in place. And that's our specialty, is really helping companies make payments across the world.
Awesome. Antonio, any closing remarks?
Yeah,
sure.
Just to thank the audience time and nothing. Let's make crypto useful.
Great. I want to thank the audience for your attention and your time. And remember, Bitso is here to help you and to make crypto useful. See you next time.